Amen. Y'all go ahead and grab a seat. Oh, welcome. If we have not had the chance to meet yet, my name is Austin Walker, and I am one of our student pastors here. I get to lead our student ministry team, and I am pumped to be here. For those of you that follow me on Instagram and are wondering why I'm not dressed like a highlighter right now, we did some tests with the lighting, and they said, yeah, don't do that. And so who knows? It is a shirt that was woven directly at the center of the sun. And so I'm gonna spare you the headaches for that and wear literally like the exact opposite of that shirt. A non-polo, like just earth colored shirt. But tonight is gonna be a little bit of a different night. Tonight is gonna be a little different in that we get to celebrate baptisms and some of your friends who've given their life. Yeah, we can always cheer for that. But it's gonna be fun. I wanted to take some time to just celebrate what God has done in FSM over the past year, because I think it'd be really easy for us to move on. And you may not have known this, like this is the last Wednesday night of the year. Aww. We've been practicing and y'all still missed your cue, but we'll take it. And so as summer kicks up, there are a few things that I want you to know to stay plugged in. This goes for you seniors as well. So just some things for you to know. First, if you want to be the first to find out about, like mainly big changes, but also we may or may not have a really cool announcement coming down the pipe involving things that could be, on Spotify. The first thing that we're gonna announce that on is our text chain. So if you haven't yet, a way to stay in the loop is to text FSM students to 401-411, and that'll get you on our texting tree. Standard text messaging rates apply. All of that stuff that we're supposed to tell you every time we announce this, but we've got some cool stuff coming up. And also, if like something changes and we have to cancel something, or let's just be honest, if it snows during summer, whether or not an FSM event is happening is not our biggest problem, but we will let you know. Another way that you can stay in the loop is to follow us on social media. We'll be posting a lot of stuff on Instagram. Spotify, again, you'll maybe want to keep an eye on our Spotify artist page. That's not our like account, that is an artist page. You pull that up and just keep an eye out for the next couple weeks because it could be cool. You may be like, man, what a letdown. Or you may be like, this is awesome. Or maybe nothing's happening. Who can know? Something's happening. And then Redbubble, FSM AR, that is like Trish and I think Court tonight is wearing stuff from Redbubble. That's just how you can get some FSM merch. But that brings me to the summer. We do a lot of really cool stuff during the summer, such as the float trip. We want to float the Buffalo float trip. It's super fun. It is super fun, and it's super fun. So we want you to float the Buffalo River with us because this is the last Wednesday night. So in 2 weeks, we're gonna float the Buffalo, but seats are limited. This is a multi-site event and we cap it at 100 people and we cap it hard. So like if you're like 101, you're like, I could float next to a canoe. You can't, that's not how it works. But you'll wanna do that, and you should have in the mail, like the regular mail in the metal box by your house, gotten a summer calendar. We also have some as you're leaving if you wanna do that, because this is the last Wednesday night. Y'all are missing your cue every time. Let's just try. That was like 8 seconds late, but it still made my heart happy, so we'll take it. But we started the school year with this series that we called Welcome to the Party. And we talked about how Wednesday night, our time with our friends, our time as a body of believers should be a party. It should be a lot of fun. We talked about how heaven throws a party when God finds that lost coin, when the lost sheep is returned, when the prodigal son comes home. There's a cosmic party that happens when Jesus changes lives. Well, when people's lives are radically changed and altered, we throw a party. And so we said we should celebrate that. We should celebrate those things. But now let's try this again. We're at the last week of FSM. My people. We're the last week. And then the question is like, what do we do? Like, what do we do if this is the party? If the party involves all of this, like what are we supposed to do? And last week we talked about how to continue in that a little bit. But when our small group stops meeting over the summer, when Wednesday night services takes a summer hibernation until August, what do we do? But here's the thing. We do everything in here with intentionality, because I think the reality is that the party doesn't stop, which is, for those of you that aren't putting all of these connections together, that's why we called this week and last week, The Party Doesn't Stop. I think, and I have a great level of confidence when I say that, I think that what God does here doesn't stay here. I think what God does in this room is not confined by these walls. It's not confined by these boundaries. It's not even confined by this time. I think what God does here doesn't stay here, which is why we do everything intentionally, which is why we do stuff like one night, because we think that if you guys invite your friends that may not normally come, they may see or experience Jesus in a way that they wouldn't normally experience him, and maybe Jesus would change their life. Maybe they would experience something new. We do one night, not so you guys who are a regular part of our family have a super fun night, like that's a plus. But the reason that we do one night is because we believe that what happens here doesn't stay here. And if God is gonna change some lives, we wanna be a part of that. We wanna be a part of the things that God is doing in and through students. And so tonight, I wanna celebrate that. I want to celebrate the fact that I think what God does in this space and in your small groups is not a pebble thrown into the ocean. I think it is closer to a boulder dropped into a puddle. I think that the impact that we feel when Jesus changes lives is a big, big deal. And I think first off, that changes us individually. Like as single individual people, I think Jesus changes our life, and what happens in FSM doesn't just stay there. And to talk through this point, I was gonna invite a student up and, hey, how has God changed your life this year? And that's really, really important. But for this, I thought it'd be a little bit, maybe a different perspective for you all to hear from somebody who sat in your seat. From somebody who years ago sat, and for some of you, because we hadn't got new chairs, like your actual seat, they sat in it when they were your age. So somebody's like, yeah, my chair's broken. It probably was this one. But I just wanted to invite Jake, because I want you guys to hear from him the fact that what happens here doesn't stay here on an individual basis. So if y'all would welcome Jake Briggs to the stage. Jake got the all clear from Tech to wear his party shirt. I'm a little bitter. I'm not bitter. But Jake, as many of y'all know, grew up in FSM, sat in y'all's shoes. And so I have a couple of questions just to really sat in y'all's shoes, maybe, I don't know, your life. Yeah. Sat in y'all's seats and really has experienced what that's like. And so Jake, I sent you these questions ahead of time, so hopefully you're ready to just be on point. Oh yeah. You can say whatever you want, though. I didn't proof these. But how would you say that God moved in your life during high school?
Yeah, I'll say you always hear the phrase, like, my faith wasn't my own until a certain time in your life. Junior year is really when it started becoming serious, and my faith actually did start becoming my own. I knew about God my whole life. I was saved when I was 6 years old, but I didn't quite have the understanding that I had, and I wasn't spending time with the Lord or anything like that. So I'll say I knew about God my whole life, and I knew that he was right, but it wasn't until my junior year that I knew that he was good, and he was for me, and he loved me. It was actually my junior year, right over there, I got baptized by Tim Caldwell. My junior year, I was 16 years old, so it was junior year. So I think I would say he just showed me that he was good, that he loved me, and that's kind of when I started developing my own faith as a believer.
Yeah. How has what God did in your life in high school changed who you are now?
Yeah, so when I was in high school, a lot of you guys might not know, I played sports. I was in choir. I did tennis and basketball. I played football up until freshman year. I don't look like a football player. I rode the bench a lot.
You do. You look so football-y.
Lineman, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so I was like all over the map in terms of what I was doing, my activities and everything like that. I had no clue what I was gonna do. Started leading chapel at school and helping out in the band. I actually never even led worship when I was in FSM. I only played drums back when Aaron Williams had my position. So I was all over the map in terms of what I wanted to do. But he called me to worship ministry my senior year of high school. I was actually at Passion, which a lot of you guys know about, in Atlanta, Georgia. And I was at Passion when I felt the call to ministry, specifically worship ministry. And I kind of said, nah, I'm good. Like, that wasn't my dream. I wanted to be in a band. I wanted to write songs. I wanted to tour. And then I actually went through college trying to pursue a lot of that. And it wasn't until post-college that I realized that dream is all about me, and it wasn't about glorifying the Lord. So that's what he taught me, and that's kind of how he led me through high school. So he called me to something. I kind of said, no, not for now. I have my own dream. But he brought me back to what he initially had called me to and ultimately gifted me in.
Yeah. For you, you have a lot of giftings, but obviously like you're using passion to develop people, you're using like musicality and your ability to play multiple instruments, your voice, you're using that stuff in a ministry context. But what would you say to a student who maybe their gifts aren't as like easy to say like, oh yeah, you put that on a stage in front of people and lead people to the presence of God. Like it's not as transferable. What would you say to a student who maybe has some giftings like that?
Right, yeah, I think a lot of people who are gifted in certain areas that are easily transferable, like he was saying, oh man, I was good at music. It's worship leading. That's an easy avenue to use that gift. Or, sports, you're good at sports and you have a platform, you have something to stand for, and then, oh yeah, man, people see me and I'm a believer. Then others almost feel this shame of, I don't feel this clear gifting and I don't feel this clear calling like someone who's in music and can easily go in a worship ministry or is gifted at public speaking and they can just easily go and be a pastor or speak from the stage. It's not like that. So I would say there's no shame in not knowing that I'm exactly called to this one thing and there is a clear avenue in how I can use that as a career. God will gift everyone in multiple areas, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna be your career. My sister, for example, a lot of you guys know Ashley, redhead. She sang with me at Winter Chill. Yes, she led worship for y'all in 56 back in the day. She is a very gifted worship leader, led worship for years as a career. 56, she worked at another church in Benton. Now she works at Anthropology over in the Promenade. Very gifted worship leader. It's not her career, but she does it on the side. She still feels the call, but it's ultimately about her love for people and her love for God. And I think that's what it comes down to. You're like, I have all these giftings. What am I gonna do? What is my career gonna be? What's God's will for my life? And you're trying to compute it all in your brain. It's not about a job. Everyone has to do something to make money. Everyone has to, provide for your family, everything. It's not necessarily about your job or career. It's about the ways that God's gifted you as a person in your heart and how you can ultimately do that and love people and love God more by the ways that he's gifted you.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks for sharing, Jake. Would you all give it up for Jake? So like I said, what happens in this room doesn't really just stay here. What God does here changed the direction of Jake's life dramatically. The way that God moves in and through these moments, you have no idea what the future is gonna hold. And it doesn't happen just with Jake, some other individual things. Like we got to see over a dozen students give their life to Jesus this year across all of our campuses. And that is, if anything else, something to celebrate. Because that is 12 people, and those are just the ones that we have had a conversation with, not necessarily ones who God's been working in their heart and we have no idea, or their D group leader knows and we don't know, or any of that stuff. That's 12 people whose futures will never, ever, ever be the same. Their families will never, ever, ever be the same, because what happens here doesn't stay here. Not only that, are we seeing students brought from death into life, we also, one thing I love about what God does in FSM is this heart for discipleship and this heart to invest in each other. We ran some numbers, and this year, across all of our campuses, we have almost 930 people involved in FSMD groups. And that is incredible. And we're gonna go through, just as a heads up, we're gonna go through a lot of statistics to brag on what God is doing through you guys right now. Don't feel like you have to clap every 4 seconds. You're welcome to, but also I know it could end up where it's like, oh my gosh, dude, stop. Like he claps, so now I have to clap. It's a good thing, and we wanna celebrate well, but we got a lot of things that we're celebrating tonight. But it's not just individually. Like what God is doing in and through your lives individually doesn't stay here. but it's also together as a ministry, both as the West Little Rock campus for high school, West Little Rock campus 7th through 12th grade, but also all of our campuses together, Benton, Cabot, Midtown, Espanol, West Little Rock, all as one, noticing that what God's doing in your lives together is changing the community. We've challenged you over the past several years, starting really when the church started saying, let's go after the one. Let's be intentional about investing in people's lives who maybe don't know Jesus, because we know in Central Arkansas, there's 600,000 spiritually disconnected people. But the reality is you may know one person that you can really be intentional with. And this year with all of our campuses, we talked about this last week, 130 people have come through and filled out that form saying it was the first time that they came here. That means we've spent over $600 giving your friends free coffee. But that's what it's for. And here's the thing, the average church in America is about 80 people. That means like a church and a half of people who have not come to church before, came for the first time, and hopefully had a good experience with God's people, God's word, and God's presence. And those are the things that change lives, that change futures, because you guys have a stirring in your heart to go after the one, to be intentional in inviting people. And we're seeing the fruit of that. We're seeing God changing lives. It's impacted the way that you give. Not just the way that you interact with other people, but the way that you're using as teenagers your time and your finances. Over the past 6 weeks, we challenged y'all to give. We did a supply drive for Caring Hearts Pregnancy Center. And here's the thing, we've got some pictures that we'll put up on the screen where we got to deliver this. Caring Hearts takes young moms, often teen moms, who don't have a lot of resources and are considering whether to carry the baby full term or have an abortion. And for parents, for moms that decide to carry their child full term, they do a Bible study, they do education, and then when the baby's born, they're able to bless that family, that mom and child, with some things that we take for granted: socks, bottles, clothes, and those are things that they may not have access to at that point. And so because you as teenagers who honestly don't have a whole lot of income in the first place. Now, a lot of you work really hard and some of you do have substantial income, but I see you hustling with all those lawns. I know that that's incredible, but you're giving. And because of that, because you have a stirring in your heart where Jesus is changing your priorities, there are kids who are gonna get brought into this world because an organization said that we care. And we got to stock their supply room and refill that as they were running low for new teen moms, new young moms who don't have people in their corner. What happens here doesn't just stay here. It's impacted the way that y'all serve. I asked a couple different ministries in our church that we're connected with, and one of them was Upward Sports. Y'all may know this, you hear me say this all the time. That field right there hosts, and this is not an exaggeration, literally the largest upward soccer program on the planet. Statistically, the most people. And so I asked Paul Kroger, who leads that up, hey, just ballpark it, how many students, how many teenagers do you feel like are involved in Upward Sports? And he said, easily over 40. Many of those are involved in FSM. There is no way we could do what we do if it weren't for teenagers willing to serve. For some of you, that's being a referee. For some of you, that's working concessions. For some of you, that's coaching. For some of you, that's coaching, more like cat herding. And I get that. But here's the deal, and I get it. I got a 4-year-old, cat herding, times 1,000. But there are thousands and thousands of people every Saturday that it doesn't rain who come to our campus, our property, and have no connection with the church. They're connected in our city. They're looking for community. They have no idea who Jesus is. And Paul Kroger could talk to you for days on end about the number of people that he's been able to tell about Jesus because of that. And that doesn't happen if there aren't students who are passionate about that. And I love Upward Sports. The 3 things that I love most about our church: Upward Sports Fellowship Associates, which is our church planting stuff, and then this other thing, our special needs ministry. I asked Amy Moore about how many students serve in special needs. And here's the cool thing. Fellowship is gaining notoriety, gaining a reputation in our community as not only being an okay place for families with special needs, but for being a place where those families who are often overlooked are welcome, valued, and well cared for. She said there are over 24 just from our campus, largely from our high school population, who are serving in our special needs ministry. And that's week-to-week buddies, that's going to Camp Barnabas this summer and being work crew, or a buddy that's just being on call for whatever is happening in that. And that reputation is caring for people that oftentimes go overlooked, doesn't happen if God isn't stirring in your heart to be involved and to serve. Because what happens here doesn't just stay here. The party doesn't stop when this ends. I asked Matt Morgan to run a report. He's over our kids ministry. We call it FSK. And I said, Matt, I'm curious, from all of our campuses put together, how many teenagers would you say between this age and this age, 7th through 12th grade, are serving in FSK regularly? And he said, man, that'd be hard to say because some campus, like we classify it different in our database, but let's run the report anyway. He said this number, there's probably 40 to 50 more than this, but over 130 students are serving in FSK, which is bonkers. And that's anything from greeting to nursery to worship to all of these different things. And here's the thing, as a dad of a kid of 2 girls that go to FSK, some of y'all either currently have or have had my girls, and there is no greater joy than me going home on Sunday and hearing Maisie talk about the Bible story that she heard, the teachers that she had singing songs that are hard to decipher, but we get there. And being excited, like this is just a personal note. As a pastor, my greatest nightmare is that my daughters would hate my job because my job is also our church. And I'm a believer, and I have my child coming home and teaching me Bible stories. But think about the people who come in and week out who have no relationship with Jesus. They're looking for a place to call home. And y'all are creating that space for their kids to learn about Jesus. Y'all are creating that space for their kids to be safe, feel welcome, and be excited. Because what happens here doesn't stay here. When Jesus moves in your life, it affects every single area. It's a boulder into a puddle. And serving goes beyond FSK. Many of y'all are leading Bible studies at lunch at your school. Many of y'all get friends together outside of your small group to talk through the Bible. Many of y'all serve on the X team, greeting, the tech team, the broadcast team, the worship team. It goes on and on and on. And there's a couple of our guys, and I asked one of them just to answer a couple questions, who lead a group that is totally like independent of their normal small group. Graham and Seth have a group of other students that they're meeting with. And so I just said, man, what started that? And I asked him a handful of questions, and he's working. But I wanted to read you what he said because I think it's really important. As the band comes up, there's just 3 questions that I asked him. What exactly are you doing? I meet regularly with another senior, Seth, and we lead a group of guys with 2 juniors, 2 sophomores, and 2 freshmen. We've walked through a few books of the Bible, beginning in Mark, going to Ephesians, and right now we're just finishing 1st and 2nd Timothy. Our goal is, just like it says in 2 Timothy 2:2, to entrust the truth that has been poured out to both of us and entrust that to other men who will teach it to others as well. So, okay, why are you doing this? Why are you getting a group of guys together to go through this stuff? He said, man, I was challenged to step up in my faith and begin pouring into younger men. Our 2 D group leaders, Trey Gardner and John Sheffield, called us on it, and they've helped me grow spiritually and challenged us in our faith. So I said, what is the goal? What's the end purpose? Define the win. Man, my prayer is that this begins a cycle. As Seth and myself leave for college, our goal is that those juniors would step up into our position and lead and take 2 new freshmen in to join the group, starting a cycle year after year after year. This isn't tough. This isn't complex. This is taking what God is doing in our lives and allowing that to influence and impact the rest of who we are. There's a passage that this may feel a little out of place in 1 Thessalonians that talks about this idea that the party doesn't stop, because what happens here doesn't just stay here individually. What happens here doesn't stay here as a ministry, but what happens here doesn't stay here even within time and space. What God is doing now is not confined to now. In 1 Thessalonians 4, Paul writes this: and now, dear brothers and sisters, we want you to know that what will happen to believers who have died, so you won't grieve like people who have no hope. For since we believe that Jesus died and was raised to life again, we also believe that when Jesus returns, God will bring back with him the believers who have died. We'll tell you this directly from the Lord. We who are still living when the Lord returns will not meet him ahead of those who have died. For the Lord, and this is the important part, 16 and 17, for the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a commanding shout, with the voice of an archangel and the trumpet call of God. First, the Christians who have died will rise from their graves. Then together with them, we who are still alive, remain on earth, will be caught up in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. Then we will be with the Lord forever. Encourage each other with these words. This passage, a lot, and we won't go super deep into it. A lot of times it gets used for several different things that we're not going to dive into because it gets a little like hotly debated. But here's the imagery in this. This, as Paul is describing this moment in the future, he says the Lord will come, the trumpet will sound, the herald will cry. In his day, the way a king would return to his kingdom after winning a battle, the king would lead the army back home, and as the watchtower would see the king over the horizon, the victorious king, they would sound the trumpet. The heralds would cry and say, the king is returning, the king is returning. And the people would pour out of the city, celebrating and cheering and sprint to go meet the king and his warriors and bring them into the city as the king returned to his throne, the final declaration of victory. What we see in this passage is a vivid reminder that what happens here doesn't stay here, because what happens here is eternal. The things that God is doing in your life, in this room, this year, in your journey, in your story, will change everything forever. There will come a day when the king returns, when Jesus announces the final victory over death, where the people that you have lost who love Jesus, you'll be reunited. The people that you've lost touch with who love Jesus, you'll be reunited, and there will be the ultimate celebration of victory because the king has conquered the grave. What happens here does not stay here, because Jesus isn't king just in this room. Jesus isn't king just in our hearts. Jesus is king. He has won the fight, which allows us in our life when things get tough to sing hallelujah. It allows us in our life when we feel like death is winning to say, because the king is on his way back to his kingdom. The king's throne sits empty. No other person has taken that from him. And now the king's throne doesn't sit empty, it's filled with the king. Jesus is there. Victory has been won, and so we are able to celebrate, we're able to sing, we're able to realize that the party doesn't stop. If anything, it's just on pause. And so if y'all would, we stand and we celebrate that and cry out with everything in us as we end this semester that he is king and that he has won. Let's sing together.